All right, hello and welcome to episode one of Return to Videotech, a podcast about movies. My name is Keith. I make videos about movies on YouTube. Um, I'm not sure about this. We might end up posting this in just audio form somewhere. So if you're not already watching this on YouTube, you can find me over there at High Volume Video. And with me today, and hopefully for every future episode of the podcast, is my fellow movie lover, physical media collector, and lifelong buddy Matt, who you may know from the now defunct Greatest Moments in the History of Forever podcast. Matt, how's it going? What's up? How does it feel to be back on the mic?
Good man. It's it's weird, having a visual element, face for radio, as they say in the biz. Uh, but it's good. I'm glad to be talking movies with you. I've been enjoying your videos out there. Um, I'd say, you know, really bringing you to a new level of fame. Previously famous for being the only person to have bought and sold Venture Bros season two to the same video store three times.
I think I have a fourth now because if I look back there, I could probably pull it off the shelf. But yes, I do have, I think, the first three seasons at least of Venture Bros, and I've owned each of them multiple times.
So you and me got to talking about, hey, maybe we could do something. I mean, we've been talking about movies for a long time, probably as far back as anyone in my life that I've spent time going to see movies. You're probably the one person in my life that, like, whenever we're together in whatever state that's in, like, going to see a movie is on the docket for something that's going to happen wherever we are. I can't say that I really share that with anyone else, like, that I go to visit or comes to visit me. So we started talking about, hey, let's do something. Let's give it a shot. I mean, you've been doing this anyway. You're home a lot. I'm home more now, mostly just due to old age and lack of interest in going out into the world. Um, and we kind of kicked around the idea of doing a show. The whole visual element was new to me, a little nerve wracking. I got to make sure I'm not like touching my face or anything. But I was interested in doing it, and I was interested to keep talking about movies, especially with you. So when we started having the idea, we were like throwing out a bunch of ideas for the show, and I'm sure there's a bunch of people that are like, "What is this? What does this mean?" Some people probably know really well what it means, but Videotech was the original video rental store in my life. I assume it for you as well.
Yeah, I don't know how much time we spent going there together,
No,
but I do remember going there a lot with our buddy Tom.
yeah.
If anybody listening who knows Tom, yeah, we used to go there all the time, and yeah, that was just like our one of the local video rental stores in our hometown.
Yeah, I mean, my journey with watching movies and renting movies goes back to that store. It actually made me sad because I tried to Google it, and you know how these days you can Google something and it'll show like permanently closed. That's not even there's not even a hint of Videotech on. Like I
Yeah,
couldn't even find like an old newspaper article about it closing.
yeah.
It's just
When you
lost
brought
to
up
time.
that when you brought up like incorporating that name, I did do a quick search on Facebook. There's a group called like I think it's called like Video Store Backrooms or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But I did try to search and see if anybody had posted anything on there about it, but I couldn't. But I mean, there's like 100 and some thousand people in there. I figured maybe somebody knew or had photos or something. But yeah,
So that's the show. We're returning to Videotech, the home of the birth of physical media in our lives. My early days actually like tie back into you because my most rented movie was a little thing called Ewok
oh
Adventures, which you gifted me one of the times that I came to visit on VHS. It's
yes.
actually not that one. It was actually the Battle for Endor, but I would rent that literally every weekend as a kid, and ties in with another movie that we're going to talk about on the episode today. Um, but so it just felt perfect for you and me to be doing a show and to bring Videotech into the fold. And there was a time where I thought about, hey, should we just call it Videotech? But then I was like, people might think it's technical, and I got to tell you, for us taking 3 hours just to get me set up on my Mac to be able to do this, like Keith giving me little tutorials on how to use a Mac. Uh, I don't think that there's going to be much technical about this show. You have a little bit more background in the in the technical side, but so I figured Videotech needed something, and we tried several iterations of it, but Return to Videotech felt like the right name.
Yeah, I'm excited about the name. I think it's cool. I don't even care if, people listen to this who are not from our hometown or whatever, obviously. But yeah, I'm excited about it. Obviously, I have zero podcasting experience. You have like what? Like fucking 8 years of experience. So
Yeah, well,
you're you're captaining this ship. So
8 years later, and equally as incoherent as I ever was. But
yeah,
um, so yeah, I guess we could talk a little bit about the segments that we wanted to do today, um, and what we plan to be sort of the format going forward. Although I will say it's very loose. The structure could change over time. The main purpose of this is so that me and Keith can chat and talk about movies.
yeah, just hang
But
out and talk movies like we used to for sure.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I'm sure over time some of these stories will come out. An endless amount of us going to Walmart at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Many $5 bin digs and going back to your place and
Yeah,
watching the Warriors four
but
times in a row.
right, like many young people in their teens, we could have been out chasing girls or whatever, but no, it was Walmart and DVDs for us.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We would go to parties and then drive back to your house and just, yeah, stop at Walmart on the way home, raid the $5 bin and watch something.
Well, and I've actually had multiple starts and stops of being a physical media, at least when it comes to movies, person. Walmart, Blockbuster doing the $5 sales on DVDs was like the all time high of
Yeah.
like, hey, let's go to Blockbuster on a Sunday and get four movies for $20.
Oh, yeah.
And then like every once in a while it would be the five for 20.
Yeah. Well,
And that
dude, I had a good run of that. Like when I lived with our buddy Burton,
yeah.
he worked at Blockbuster and he would just bring home everything. So he was a big influence on my like taste in movies, I think. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean you've stayed pretty consistent in my time knowing you. I did take a pretty long hiatus from probably like 2009 to like 2014 when the rise of Netflix and the streaming services. My parents moved to North Carolina. I let them take all of my movies with them. I was just like I had gotten out. I was like I'm out the game. But I started going around with
not
Zach.
out the movie game, just out of the collecting physical media game,
True,
right? Yeah,
right,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I was still going to the movies a lot, but I started going around with Zach to physical media stores and the exchange type places where you can buy and sell things.
Hmm.
And Blu-rays it started to get pretty cheap again, and I was like, all right, this is fun again. I'm buying things for like $5 or $6.
Hmm.
Um, so I started there kind of slow, and it's kind of ratcheted up over time. Picked up big time over the pandemic for sure, but now there's so many kind of boutique labels doing physical media again in general, and I'm sure we'll dive into a bunch of that. But it's just you know, if you have interest in that world, there's really so much to get into at this point.
Yeah, I'm excited in future episodes to maybe go off the rails a little bit and talk more about collecting and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. But I guess to kind of like get started with what our basic outline of the show is going to be for now, do you want to kind of explain what the first couple segments are going to be? Because you kind of conceptualized the first couple at least. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So one thing that always comes to mind for me in terms of how I can continue going through my own movie journey, which it's pretty loaded. I have a bunch of movies. I have all the streaming services. I feel like I've seen a million things, yet I own so many movies that I've never seen. I hear about so many movies that I've never seen. Um, and a lot of times I just watch stuff that I'm in the mood for. So I have all of these movies, an endless amount of movies that are just still in shrink wrap, or movies that I've bought that I had never seen before, which is kind of known as a blind buy, and I know you have a bunch of those as well. And I thought, what
too
better way to
many.
kind of make my way through some of those than to like have a reason to have to do it. So we talked about one segment every week just being either blind buy or still in shrink wrap. So the idea of a blind buy is you bought something that you've never seen before. still in shrink wrap could be something that you've bought, or excuse me, still in shrink wrap could be something that you've seen before, but you've never opened whatever copy of it that you have. And I have a bunch of those. So,
Yeah,
and I know
likewise.
you do as well.
Yeah, dude, I have enough that we could do this podcast for the next 10 years, and
I know. I
I
know.
would have enough for one every week, probably.
That's the fun thing about being into movies is like there's so much out there, and I think you and I have a good it's like the circles that overlap and have the crossover thing because we both like so many movies, and overall we're definitely like on the positive side, less cynical, I would say. Although you'll get some of that, but we love movies, we love talking about movies, we love the experience of movies. Um, but we do have a little bit different taste on certain things. Like I think we're both into things, but I go a little bit probably deeper on some of the highbrow, critically acclaimed, like niche stuff, and then like all of this kind of I don't know B horror, but beyond that, I don't even really know how to describe it. Like Italian horror movies that I've never even
Yeah.
heard of.
Yeah, yeah. Our collections are probably similar in some ways, but quite different in other ways. Yeah. I think if I was to look at my like boutique shelf, like I probably do have more Criterions than like any other label,
Yeah, same.
but I definitely dive deeper into like the Arrows and the Scream Factories and stuff like that. So yeah, I tend to like the horror stuff a little bit more than you maybe, and
Yeah,
just a little bit more of the, like the goofy, weird, the synapse stuff. Yeah, like you were saying, like Italian giallos and
yeah.
like just the gratuitous nudity stuff and like all that stuff. But
Well, I'm looking forward to it because I need to know more of that stuff. Like Lindsay and I watched Chopping Mall a year ago or so, and both were loving it. In fact, when Halloween time comes around, I'm like, I need more movies like Chopping Mall, and I know
yeah,
there's a bunch of them out there, and I've seen a decent amount
yeah.
of them, but I know there's like so much that I haven't
Yeah. And
dug into.
I'm not claiming to be like an expert on this stuff. Like I maybe I watch a little bit more than you do of that kind of stuff, but I'm not an expert. I'm still learning a lot of that stuff too, and like that's what I'm excited about with this
Oh yeah,
podcast is like it's kind of just like a reason to dive deeper into stuff like that for me at least.
oh yeah. I mean, if that wasn't clear to anybody, we are experts of nothing.
Yeah.
Just two dudes that want to talk about movies. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the idea behind the one segment. I mean, every week I'll plan to, and you'll plan to, we'll each watch a movie that is either a blind buy or still in shrink wrap. And then within the segment, we'll also tease what we're going to do
Yeah.
for next week's episode.
Yeah.
So just a little brief conversation around it. The requirements are not that the other person has to see it. I think sometimes we will have, sometimes we won't.
Mhm.
And it'll just be a discussion. And the next segment that I brought to the table was in the mood for, and this is just, hey, what do I just feel like watching, which is very important to me in my movie. I mean, it's like divorce could happen over how serious I am about needing to watch the right movie at the right time. I mean, I think we're 3 years deep on like as soon as January kicks in, watching Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, just something that's like snowy and miserable. Like it's a very important element to my movie watching experience is watching things at the right time for
Yeah.
me. So,
No, I totally agree, 100%. Like, so one of the first videos I made was the 31 Days of Horror,
oh yeah,
basically, and I didn't even make the video until December. But part of the reason why I did that was because it was like I don't like a lot of YouTubers and stuff. I feel like they make those videos at the beginning of October, and they're like, "Here's this list of movies that I think I want to challenge myself to watch." I can't do that. Like I have to be like you're saying, like I have to be in the right mood.
oh yeah.
Like I can't just I can't make a list and follow it. Like I have to go by how I'm feeling for the most part.
I
So
actually do make lists and then always go off list because I just can't. I get down the list
well,
and I'm like, I'm not
I
feeling
could
this today.
I could make a list but then pick from it, I guess. I guess
Yeah,
I
yeah,
could do that. But I couldn't make a list and be like, "Okay, on October 1st I'm going to watch this movie and then the
yeah,
next day I'm
yeah.
going to watch this movie."
No, I
So
mean, if we went
yeah.
into my phone, there would be like, you know, movies. Here, the second thing. So the first thing on my list, records still to buy because I went to a record
Yeah.
store yesterday. Second thing on my notes is holiday season movies, where there's like 25 movies listed, and 30% of them have check marks from this past holiday season. Which I guess this episode is a little bit holiday season themed. I guess apropos of how we're going to be already not really in line with the time of the year. We kind of missed our window for that,
Oh
but I
yeah,
think
we're
that's
fucking
okay.
way past it. I
Well, people,
picked two Christmas movies to talk about, or I mean, I guess one of them is debatable, but one of them has Christmas in the name of the title of the movie. And this probably won't come out until at least next week, probably. But yeah,
well, people can get into it for next year or
yeah,
whatever. I mean that's the beauty of it. I mean they could go listen to it next year.
yeah.
Most people won't
But
even find it for years to come.
dude, if one person's gonna listen to it though, it's gonna be my mom. My mom comments on all the stuff that I post on Instagram, so she'll have something to say.
That's good. All right, we'll have one. We'll have
Yeah.
one fan. So
All right,
and
so
then
yeah, you covered Blind Buys. You want to cover the next one? Or no, we covered that too, kind of in
we
the
did
middle.
Blind Buys. We did In the Mood
Yeah.
for, and then the other one that I proposed, which is sort of, I guess everything else will work as the wraparound story for what we're calling Spotlight, which is one movie that we're really going to spend the largest chunk of time on, at least by design or in theory. But I mean, nothing's ruling out that, we get really into a discussion about a blind buy movie, and then that's like the majority of the show. But by design, Spotlight will be like the main thing, and it's just a movie that we both like, we both want to talk about. Could occasionally be something that's new, although unlikely these days since I just can't get to the theater on any sort of regular cadence.
Yeah.
Although I do feel like I need to have that as a resolution for 25 is like get to the theater more.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Me and Christine, my wife, we were on like a good run of going to the theaters like at least once, maybe twice a week for a long time. And then we just had a kid, so it's not happening that much anymore.
I
But
was just like mentally trying to put together like a list of like best of for 24, and I mean I normally do like a top 10 list. I think I only have 5 movies on the list so
dude,
far.
I
So
actually, for me at least, for my taste, this year was great. I started kind of making a list on my phone too, and if you're a horror fan, yeah, this year was like pretty good. Like we had so much stuff like Maxine in a Violent Nature.
yeah,
There was like so much good stuff for horror fans this year. The Nosferatu that just came out was awesome. Um,
that's great.
I don't want to
Yeah.
get too far off the rails, but yeah, it
No,
was
no,
a
not
good
at all.
year.
I mean, I was gonna say I have like Baby Girl on the list and
I
Challengers. Yeah.
we were actually debating whether we should go see Baby Girl or Nosferatu, and I mean we ended up obviously seeing Nosferatu, but I am excited to see Baby Girl.
I actually ran into a guy at the theater that I used to loosely know and hung out with a little bit, but I hadn't seen him in years. And last I knew, he had moved away. So he kind of made eye contact with me, and I was like, "This person's looking at me. Kind of looks like somebody I know, but I don't think it is." So just kind of looked away and ended it there. But then he messaged me later that day and was like, "Either I ran into you at Nosferatu, or you have a doppelganger." And I was like, "No, that was me, but I was actually coming out of Baby Girl." So yeah, I don't know. It's just definitely on my list to start getting back out there more. I do want to before like the Oscars, I'm gonna make an effort to watch a bunch more of the stuff from 2024 because
Yeah.
it was not a great year for me for um what's current.
Usually when the Academy announces all the Best Picture nominees, I'll look at the list and try to watch as much of the stuff as I can that's available. I feel like a lot of that stuff is like not even available to like rent though,
That's true.
VOD. So it's like it's hard to see a lot of that stuff.
Well,
But
I wanted to see, and I'm sure I think it probably got bad reviews, but a movie that I really wanted to watch, and I don't even know what theaters it played in around here. It had a limited release. There was like a Paul Schrader movie that he did with Richard Gere that I can't remember the name of at this
I
point.
don't know what that one
It's
is.
like Oh Canada, and it sort of had this, you know, successful guy at the end of his career. Kind of seemed like it had some dark undertones to it. I was like, oh yeah, this looks up my alley, but um,
Well,
I don't know.
anything Paul Schrader is like, what do they say on the big picture? Like you got like season tickets or whatever. Like I'll go see anything he does. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I mean, I was interested, and that's like on my top to do list for 2024 movies. But there's definitely other stuff. Did you see that Long Legs movie?
I did, yeah, yeah.
Did you like
I was
that? I saw
actually
that got really good buzz.
I was kind of underwhelmed by it, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to like poo poo on anybody's parade because I know a lot of people like that movie, but there's there's like some supernatural elements that I wasn't expecting, I guess, and I feel like the movie was sold as if it's like if it was going to be like the next Silence of the Lambs, and to me, it was not that.
Like a top 10 movie for me of all time.
Yeah, it was just the character that Micah Monroe plays was just too weird. Like it's not even like, or at least I didn't feel that it was like even like the police procedural aspect of it was just kind of like not even there really. It was just
Okay.
because her character was so weird. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it for you. Like,
I don't know much about it either, so I
yeah,
know that was a movie that people liked. There's other ones on the list that
yeah.
I'll have to get into, but um
Honora's one. I want to see Honora really bad. I haven't
yes,
seen that
same
yet.
here. So do I.
No.
Um okay, so those were my segments. And I know you had a couple proposals as well that have kind of ended on our outline here. You want to
Yeah.
give us your
So
take there?
so these are like obviously going to be shorter segments, but um basically I had run across some videos on YouTube where people look up movies that they like and kind of read like shitty one-star reviews of them. So I had the idea to name this segment bullying, where Matt will pick a movie and I will look up one-star reviews of it and read them to him and just kind of get his reaction.
Is it one star or half star?
Oh, as low as they go,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever it is.
It's half.
We'll just look up shitty reviews,
Yeah.
like people bashing the movie basically, and just kind of get each other's take on their reviews. Maybe we'll look at their top fours on
Yeah,
Letterboxd and bully them.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a pretty safe space for movies, but I do think it's hilarious when people shit on stuff. Like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I know that like there's a ton of people that like did not like Baby Girl. I was like looking at that and I was like, you know, people are writing things like half star, kill yourself or
yeah.
whatever.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like sometimes maybe the segment won't work out. It won't be cool. It won't be interesting. But sometimes it'll be fun. So we'll see how it goes. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Um,
I mean, I'll say this: I didn't even know how to like filter things by star rating until like you were telling me about this. So I was like, oh, I should see how like make sure that you can actually do that. So, but
yeah,
I
no,
figured out how to do it today.
yeah. Now that you bring that up, I don't remember how I did it, but yeah, it's possible.
I guess people probably don't know like that we're talking about Letterboxd either.
Yeah, sorry, I should have said that. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm talking about Letterboxd. I've seen videos though where people do it on IMDb too, though,
yeah.
which is like, who goes on IMDb and writes reviews?
Well, I mean, it was like the main source for a long time. I mean, you know,
Yeah, but I
when
mean,
I
like,
think about my history, it was like at one point in time on dial-up internet, like I was using IMDb to go like get movie news and look at who was in movies. I mean, that
fair,
was
fair
100% the
enough,
source.
fair enough. But in
So
2024, who's going on there and writing reviews?
listen, old habits die hard. But yeah, I do think we should point out. I think you and me are both in agreement on this that we're just going to use Letterbox as like the rating system for the things that we
Yeah,
talk about.
yeah, we're gonna go there. That's like the most popular thing of its kind, I guess you would say. Um,
Which it
but
seems like it warrants some discussion, and I thought about this, and I was like, I kind of want to talk to Keith about this at some point, but like, there seems to be even some different interpretations on how good like grades are on there, like what the actual rating scale is. Because I'll tell you, for me, what I think about, I won't go all the way down to like half star, but when I think about like the movies that I like if you want to do it, like to me, 5 star is A plus,
mhm.
4.5 is A, 4 is A minus, 3.5 I think is B plus, 3B, and then 2.5 I get to a C. So I'm like, sometimes I give stuff 3.5 and I feel like people are like, wow, that seems really low, and I'm like, I don't know, B plus is a good grade.
Yeah, that's like the modern grading scale. I feel like anything below a four, people are like, "Oh, that must be trash."
I know.
But that is kind of how I rate stuff, though, to be honest.
Okay,
I,
there you
but
go.
but my philosophy on it changes from movie to movie. It depends on how I'm feeling during the day. Like it's weird. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, this movie is like trying to be like an Oscar nominee. So movies like that, I will kind of grade harder. I feel like
Yeah,
than like Frankenhooker or something like that. You know, it's like I know Frankenhooker isn't that great of a movie, but I give it 5 stars because I love it and it's
yeah.
hilarious.
Zach and I saw that girl speak at a panel like
Oh
within
yeah,
the last year. Yeah, that was a fun experience.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, well, that's become an element for me too, and I've definitely changed the ratings of movies over time since I started on Letterboxd because a taste change. I like things more than I used to. It resonates with me more than it used to. But the main thing that I would say has changed is I weigh my enjoyment of something far more heavily than I used. Like I think I used to look at it as like, oh, a 5 star has to be There Will Be Blood. But
yeah,
now I'm like, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is a 5 star because I love watching it. Like,
yeah.
you know?
I mean, when you really think about it, it's Letterbox. It's basically Instagram for movies.
Yeah.
Like nobody cares if you give Frankenhooker or whatever or Halloween 3 a 5 star review. Nobody's gonna like poo poo on you for
Well, it's
that.
your
Like,
rating.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's your rating. So, I mean, you decide the scale. But
yeah. If I want
um,
to give Deep Blue Sea 5 stars, I'm gonna give Deep Blue
absolutely.
Sea 5 star.
Listen, to me, entertainment is a big part of why movies exist. If you're
Yeah,
endlessly entertained by something so much so that you want to watch it once a year,
yeah,
multiple times a year,
yeah,
then it can be a 5 star movie for you.
yeah. It doesn't have to be some Stanley Kubrick highbrow thing to get 5 stars from me, at least.
Do you want to that was bullying, was there another?
Yeah. Okay. So the last segment I think we're gonna give a try is called homework, and this is
Yes.
one where basically it's just kind of like how we were saying at the beginning. Like we kind of have like we have similar tastes, but they're different enough to where like there's some deep cut movies that maybe I've seen that Matt hasn't seen, and a lot of deep cut movies that Matt has seen that I haven't seen. So basically, for homework, we're just gonna assign each other like a movie to watch and just give our thoughts about it, like in the next week, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It to me it kind of does piggyback off of Blind Buy Still and Shrink Wrap, but it's like these are now the ones that I really am relying on you to bring into my life.
yeah,
Okay? So no pressure.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like for this week, I will tell you, spoiler alert, the one that you put down for me, I already ordered on eBay. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna order it.
Okay, okay. The
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't want to.
Um
Yeah, I'm not going to give away what it is, but
okay,
yeah.
cool.
All right, I think we rambled enough about the concept of the show and the rundown and everything. Matt, why don't you get into your blind buy for this week?
Okay, so my holiday season pick for it is not a blind buy. It was a still and shrink wrap for
Oh, okay.
me.
Okay.
Something that I'm sure my wife finds infuriating, which is uh, in Bruges. She doesn't find the movie infuriating, but I'll tell you why this was a still and shrink wrap. It was an upgrade to the 4K. I did own a Blu-ray for many years, but I had this is a movie that I loved to the point of needing to upgrade, which there are many of. Directed by Martin McDonagh, who has sort of an interesting career. I think he's like a pretty good director. I consider him like a B. I don't know. I like there's the A list people, and I feel like he's kind of the tier right below that. Like
He did Banshees of Inisherin too, right?
with the same two
The same,
gentlemen.
yeah.
Yeah,
Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell. Yeah,
Colin Farrell. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean because the chemistry between these two in both movies is just off the charts. Like you want to just keep spending time with these two. I kind of picked it as the like little Christmas season pick. They don't even really say much in terms of dialogue that indicates that it's Christmas time, but you're around some trees with lights on them and everything, so it's definitely more subtle. It's clearly winter. I love watching this movie with Lindsay because it reminds me of being on vacation with her. Like, I'm Colin Farrell on our trips where I just want to find a pub and get pissed. And she's like Brendan Fraser and wants to go see all the museums and like architecture and everything. So like every time we watch this movie, it just reminds me of being on vacation with her. But like these two are hilarious together. Ralph Fiennes is like their criminal boss who uh, gets back in the mix and comes into the picture like halfway through, basically chasing the two of them. I would say he's like pretty good as a villain. Everyone, of course, knows him as Voldemort from the Harry Potter movies, where he's pretty scary. But I
I
think,
thought he was scary in this movie too.
yeah,
He's like, yeah, he's like a gnarly like. They don't really go into it too much in the movie, but he's basically like a crime boss of some sort, right? Like,
yeah, right.
yeah,
And these two are hitmen or whatever, and a job gone bad, and they're hiding out in Bruges, and they don't know what to do with themselves. And of course, you see the differences in personality, and something happens to propel the story forward. And it's just this fun mix of violence, comedy. Um, I would say probably some of the language is a little harsh, and that might be tough for some people to deal with. But
when I rewatched this, I was taking notes and like kind of writing down some of Colin Farrell's like greatest quotes, and I don't
many of
think we
them you
can
wouldn't want
read.
to
I
quote.
don't think we can read them on here. We'll
No.
get canceled before the show even starts.
Yeah, yeah. Now, released in 2008, 107 minutes, great runtime. Um, just a fun watch. It's definitely in that category of an annual viewing for me, and it makes me want to go to Bruges and spend some time in Belgium, hanging out at some of these pubs. And yeah, I think you were hitting on it in the notes that you sent me. Where it's like this is one of those movies, and there's a couple of these. I would say Layer Cake is another one where there's a bunch of people from the Harry Potter movies, like all in one movie. Because this
Mhm.
has Mad Eye Moody,
Clem, what's her name? Clemens Posey.
yeah,
Is that,
which
is that how you
is
pronounce her name? Yeah.
yeah, and I can't remember her character name from the Harry Potter movies, but she's in the
Yeah, I
Trials of
don't remember her
Eternity.
name in there either, but yeah, she's in
Um,
like the fourth movie or something.
yeah, and then of course Ray Fiennes. So, just overall, I really am big on this movie. It's definitely my favorite Martin McDonagh movie. I do like Banshees of Inisherin. I do like Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Um, but I kind of like Seven Psychopaths. I was like okay on it. But this is my favorite of his movies. It's where I just feel like everything works and it's what I want it to be. And it's definitely one of those alternative holiday season flicks.
Yeah, I think this was a really good pick. I'm glad you picked it because it gave me a reason to rewatch it. I had seen it before, but it had been a few years, and I loved it, dude. I thought it was
Yeah.
amazing. This some of the comedy is like top notch. It's definitely a very dark comedy. Like some of the jokes people would I don't know, people might
Oh
get
yeah.
offended nowadays by a lot of the stuff, like stuff, especially stuff with like the little
Of
person
course.
and like the scene where they're
I'm
like
yeah.
doing coke with like him and the prostitute and stuff. Like it's
The Colin Farrell character, his entire outlook on life is should be canceled.
yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
just insane. But listen, if you can, you know, take it for what it is and look past that stuff. I mean, there's just a ton of fun to be had with this movie, and I'm already like looking forward to next holiday season to watch it again.
Yeah, yeah. That was an awesome pick.
Should I tease now or do I tease after we both go?
You can tease now.
Okay, so my tease for next episode is a we've mentioned Criterion Collection, the Criterion film Lone Star, which is also on 4K. I've never seen this. This is a still in shrink wrap and blind buy.
Mhm.
It's just one of those movies that when Criterion had put it out, it wasn't on my radar at all, which happens a lot. But I know people were excited about this one. And I think you watched it and really liked it. Chris Christopherson is in it. Always fun to see that pop up. But I will be talking about Lone Star next episode.
Yeah, that's a good one, especially for I don't know if I should mention this, but like the election and stuff. It's very prescient.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's
Yeah.
of the times. Even though that movie came out what like in the '90s or something.
Yeah.
It deals with like the main themes are like about kind of like the border and stuff,
Yeah.
which is
96.
very relevant of right now.
Well, that's one thing that I've found in my overall journey through movies and watching stuff from when we were younger, like stuff that came out that I wouldn't have watched then. It's wild how relevant like almost everything is that comes like stuff that comes out in the 80s and 90s that's still relevant today. I mean, you can watch stuff from the 40s and you're like, I never would have thought people thought this way back then, but it's like exactly the same as people think now. Like in some
Yeah.
ways, like
Yeah.
it's
That's
interesting.
actually a good segue to go into my pick for this one because there are some themes in this movie that are very relevant of the times as well. And so my pick for Still in the Shrink Wrap, Blind Buy, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, was Black Christmas.
Well,
And
was
yeah,
it a blind buy or still in shrink wrap or both?
it was both.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, I had never seen it before, but I started hearing more about this movie this year because I think mostly because it was like the 50th anniversary. It was directed by Bob Clark, who also did A Christmas Story
Oh, okay.
and
Wow.
Porky's.
Yeah, I did see that he directed Porky's, but I didn't realize he did A Christmas Story too. Two
Yeah,
Christmas classics.
dude, and honestly, I think have you seen this one or no? You haven't seen this
I
one.
haven't seen. Somehow that franchise has eluded me.
Well, this one
I
isn't a franchise. I think you're thinking about Silent Night, Deadly Night, right?
no. Black Christmas, I think, has been remade twice.
Oh, well, yeah, yeah, but I don't know if do you say those it's a franchise? I
Okay,
don't know,
sure.
whatever.
All right.
Doesn't matter.
Yes, it's not a
Semantics.
it's not a serialized franchise, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's been remade twice. I've never seen any movie named Black Christmas.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen the remakes either, so
Yeah.
that makes
The
almost two
the
of us.
remake came out like in like 2006.
Right, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I kind of remember one of our friends going to see it in the theater. I think Chad saw it in the theater
Oh,
that
yeah.
year. And I was like, I don't know. It just, I never saw it. And then I remember kind of being remade in like 2019 or something. And I was like, I haven't even seen the last remake or the original.
Yeah.
And,
Actually, no, yeah, I think the most recent one is kind of popular. Like
yeah.
that one was like a Hulu original or something, I
Well,
think.
didn't that happen with Texas Chainsaw Massacre too? There was like another one
Yeah.
of that in like 2020. And it's like that
That
totally
one
didn't
was
happen.
that one was also kind of well, I guess not also. That one was bad. I don't know.
Okay, okay.
But
But
yeah,
tell
that
me
was
about Black
Netflix.
Christmas, the original.
Okay, so yeah, so I was hearing more about this because I think because it was like the 50th anniversary, and also actually recently the main character, well, I wrote down what her name is, Olivia Hussey, I think is
Okay.
how you pronounce her last name. She actually just passed away, sadly.
Oh, that's a fun last name.
Yeah, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, so I
I actually have a movie
apologize.
downstairs that might come up on here one day that's just called Hussy.
Okay, okay, I'm excited. But anyways, more famously, this movie's kind of known for being like a precursor to Halloween, I guess you would
Yeah.
say. And some places where you look up information about this on the internet, people will say like, "Oh, John Carpenter like stole the idea for this
Oh, yeah.
from Bob Clark." But I looked a little further into it, and apparently, like Bob Clark had plans to make a sequel to this movie. Um, but I don't know the details of it, but basically Carpenter had a conversation with him, and Halloween was kind of like going to be like a sequel to this, or they had
Yeah.
ideas to make a sequel to this.
So that
And
was is that 76 Black Christmas?
this is 74, I think. Yeah, this is
74.
74,
What
and
was Halloween? 78?
Halloween is 78, I'm pretty sure. So
Yeah.
like 4 years later. But anyways, yeah, people like to give Carpenter crap and say that he like stole ideas from this because there's so much stuff that's very similar.
Yeah.
Like the very beginning of the movie, I'm not really spoiling anything because it literally like starts out like this, but you know, like the POV cam, like
Right, right.
where it's like I don't know if it's steady cam or what, but like there's that whole thing and um yeah, there's just like a lot of things that other horror movies kind of like steal ideas from this. Like
Sure.
I'm not totally sure, but this might be the first horror movie where with the trope of like so these girls in this sorority are getting calls from this creepy dude, and come to find out the calls are coming from in the house.
Oh, okay.
It's
Yeah.
like one of
Very cool.
those
Yeah,
things
yeah.
where the dude is like this creepy dude is like hiding out in the attic and he's like basically killing these sorority girls.
Sounds promising.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. And like
No,
if you look
I
at
want
the
to watch it.
cover,
Yeah.
like that image of the girl like with the bag over her head, dude,
Right.
when you see that in the movie, it's like it's actually creepy.
I did watch Silent Night, Deadly Night this holiday season. So maybe next year's holiday season, I'll do
Yeah.
Black Christmas.
Yeah, I don't want to say that it's so good that you need to watch it like out of season, but it is pretty good and
Or maybe
like
I'll watch it out of season then.
yeah, yeah, it'll be a good summer watch for you maybe. I don't
Okay,
know.
yeah. No, I do want to watch it, and you know that it'll come up over and over. The '70s is my
Yeah,
favorite era of filmmaking, and in terms of like criticism of directors taking stuff from other movies, the more movies that I watch, which the number goes up every day, I'm just like, holy shit! All this stuff that I thought was like original is like referencing other movies. It's like
yep,
every like your favorite movies from whatever the '90s or when you were a kid or whatever it was. All of a sudden, go back in time and watch that director's influences, and you'll be
mhm.
like, oh, it's like is
Dude,
reimagining this or took this from this or is like paying homage to this. Like it happens all the time in movies.
yeah.
That's part of the medium.
I'm sure we'll talk about this again later because it's kind of like teasing ahead to another movie that I think we're going to talk about eventually. But another thing that Carpenter gets accused of stealing is the main theme from Halloween. If you watch Dario Argento's Deep Red,
Yeah.
which spoilers, we're going to talk about that eventually, but um, there's a theme like the theme song to that is so similar that people say that Carpenter stole that too.
Yeah.
But one other thing before we move on, I did just want to mention because I think I started talking about it, but I kind of skipped over it was the fact that this movie has like a lot of very progressive ideas and kind of themes to it. So the main character, one of the main plot points in the movie, or I guess it's not really like a main plot point, but it's like a thing that that characterizes the main character, Olivia Hussey. I don't remember what her character's name is, but basically she's pregnant in the movie,
Mm.
and she's not like your typical like final girl. Like she's a very strong-willed like female character, and there's this conversation that she has with her boyfriend somewhere around like the middle of the movie where she's talking to him about being pregnant, like it's the first time that he finds out, and basically she says like she wants to get an abortion,
Mm.
and the guy's like not going for it. He's like, no, like I don't think we should do this. But she kind of like stands her ground and is like, this is my decision. So like for being from
Yeah. Yeah.
1974, like talking about stuff like that so openly, like I think the politics of the movie are like way ahead of their time. Like
Absolutely.
it's crazy. But yeah, so that's Black Christmas. I think this is super good, like creepy, just holiday horror movie.
Is
If you
this?
haven't seen
I'm
it.
sorry if you said. Is this released by any distributor or
Um,
anything that I know?
yeah, I have the Scream Factory
Okay.
of
Yeah.
it, and I just have the Blu-ray, but they put out a 4K of it this year, and that's another reason why I think a lot of people were talking about this was because the 4K came out, and yeah, a lot of people were reviewing it and stuff.
Do you have any rules around whether or not you'll upgrade something to 4K?
I don't really have any hard and fast rules. I will say, like when I look at my collection, like a lot of like my comedies are still DVD.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
some stuff like that, it's just like why would I upgrade to like a Blu-ray or 4K of a comedy when you're not really watching it for like the visual fidelity or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it, like um I don't know, a lot of like newer stuff. I did buy people already know what we're going to talk about, but I got the Goonies on 4K.
Oh yeah.
But the only
Actually,
reason I got it was because it was like $10.
I
So,
think I got the same one
yeah.
in a I got it in a package from Zach.
Yeah. I'm not like a 4K purist. Like
Yeah.
I have like the best quality setups too. Like I have an OLED TV. I have like a huge like 4K projector and stuff, but like to me still I don't really see that big of a difference between Blu-rays and 4Ks like
Sometimes, yeah. So I agree. I agree with you. Sometimes, like there's certain movies that I own Blu-rays where the scan of it looks so good that I'm like, I don't care if there's
yeah.
anything better. There's some 4Ks that I get that I'm like, wow, this looks clearly better. There's other ones that I'm like, I don't think I can notice a difference. And then there's other ones that I'm like, this just looks really dark to me. Like it looks very. There's some 4Ks that look really darkly lit.
I think that has something to do with HDR and like I'm not claiming to be like an expert on this or
Well, I'm
anything, but
definitely not.
yeah, I do know a little bit about stuff like this because I work in video production, but like I think it has a lot to do with a lot of the times when they transfer these things from Blu-ray to 4K or whatever, they go back to the original camera negatives and stuff. And when they do that, they do new color gradings, they call it, or color timings,
Yeah.
where they'll change like the feel of the movie by changing like the color palette basically, and like changing the amount of contrast and saturation and all that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think because a lot of people with newer 4K TVs will like they'll have their TV set on like vivid or like not basically just like not cinematic or whatever. So if you have your TV set to like cinematic mode or whatever, your video will new 4Ks with if you have the HDR turned on will look flatter. Like the shadows won't be
Yeah.
very dark and stuff. Like I see it a lot, and I think it has to do with the color grade and the fact that yeah, I think a lot of people are just watching on, cinema mode or whatever, movie mode, whatever you call it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's hard to explain, and I don't claim to be an expert, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think Blu-rays look fine is basically what I'm getting at.
For
Like, I
sure,
don't
for
know, yeah.
sure, for sure. But I mean, there's certain ones that come out that I'm like, hey, I'm gonna buy this just because I love this movie and I'll do the
Yeah.
upgrade. I also don't have hard rules on it. There's just certain things. I mean, I know. I think we talked about this off the show, but they're doing like Kill Bill 1 and 2 and Jackie Brown
Hmm.
on 4K, and I bought all those. Even though I will say, I didn't love the Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs ones.
Did what didn't you like about it?
I didn't think the look was that great.
Yeah, I haven't seen those, so I can't speak to them, but I do know, and I've heard about this was like a big deal about the James Cameron
Yeah.
upgrades for like Aliens and like what was it, True Lies. A lot of people hated because
Okay.
one of
I
the
didn't
things.
experience either of those.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess if you're not like looking for this stuff online, you're not just going to come across it. But a lot of people were like complaining about True Lies specifically because James Cameron went in and he like digitally got rid of like a lot of the like film grain and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And in that process, like it kind of made people's like skin tones look weird. Like they kind of look like almost like paintings a little bit, like or even just like boosting the pixel count from whatever 1080p to like 4K. Seeing more sometimes isn't better, like in my opinion, I guess.
Let me ask you something. How are you on James Cameron overall?
I think I love his movies.
I'm not that big on him. I like when you said that people bought True Lies. I'm like, why?
You don't like True Lies?
No, I'm kidding. That's harsh. I don't know. It's certainly not a movie that I would have thought about buying. Like I did watch
Yeah.
it. It's just not one
I think
that.
I think one of the reasons why it was getting brought up in like collecting communities was I don't think that ever got a Blu-ray. I think it went from DVD to 4K.
Oh, gotcha,
It might have
gotcha.
been.
Yeah.
I
And
could be
listen,
wrong
that
about
stuff.
that. I could be
No,
wrong about
that
that,
stuff
but
does get me going. Like when I hear
yeah,
about there hasn't been anything on this since VHS
yeah,
like that. Waiting for Mr. Goodbar or whatever. I'm like, buy
yeah,
immediately.
yeah. I think that was the same thing with The Abyss too. I think it
Oh
was
yeah,
like
I like The Abyss. That's higher on Cameron's list for me. I've always way preferred Alien to Aliens. That like
oh yeah, I agree. Yeah,
um,
for sure.
but I mean Terminator. I do love the original Terminator and T2.
Yeah. I
So
know we're
like,
already getting off the rails, but since you bring up Alien,
go ahead.
did you see Gladiator 2?
Oh, I didn't. I thought you were going to ask me about Alien Romulus.
No. No. Ridley
No,
Scott
I
is
haven't seen
it.
Gladiator 2. So speaking of the list of 2024 movies that I haven't seen,
Yeah.
that like Lindsay and I totally were like, let's see Gladiator 2. Let's
Yeah.
see it in the theater.
That
So,
is one that we got to see in theater, and I don't want to I don't want to
did you
speak
like
about
it or no?
it. It was okay. I'll
Yeah.
just say that. I feel like that's my opinion on Ridley Scott. It's like hit miss, hit miss, hit
I
miss. Like
totally agree. I mean,
yeah.
like his top stuff, I'd be like, oh, he's my favorite director in the world. But then it's
Yeah.
like he has all these movies that I don't care about at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I just got
Okay.
Blade Runner on VHS, by the way.
Oh, let's see that. Let's end this.
I gotta go get it.
All right.
Isn't that cool?
It's not a blind buy or in shrink wrap. Yes,
Dude,
it's
it's
very
like
cool.
mint condition though.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
I don't know.
All right. Should we
We could do a whole episode on VHS stuff. But sorry, yeah, we went off on a tangent there.
um do you want to just do something to wrap this segment up?
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't tease mine. I don't even remember what mine
Oh
was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
for next week. Oh yeah,
It-
cruising. I'm gonna do cruising
um
next
so
week.
I've never watched this all the way through. I love William Friedkin as a director. I've thought many times about ordering this. I have weird feelings about me watching this and Lindsay walking in the living room being like, "What are you doing?"
I've just heard that it's a really good like thriller.
No, I
I'm,
know.
but
Dude,
I also do know there's a lot of sexually explicit stuff going on with it too.
so yeah, it's definitely on like my short list. I have a short list of movies that I like am like I need to own. That
Yeah,
might be on there along with other William Friedkin movies like Sorcerer, which is really
yeah.
cool that I don't currently own. So I'm looking forward to your experience with it, and I'm looking forward to hearing about what you think.
Well, I do think also I think Arrow just announced like a box set version of it, which looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll probably get it.
but after didn't Friedkin also do a movie that you guys did in your previous podcast, Killer Joe?
Oh yeah, Killer Joe's great.
Dude, if it's anything like that, I'm in for it. I remember I had never heard about that movie until you guys talked about it, and
Oof,
wow,
that movie's an experience. Yeah,
wow.
and isn't it wild? That's actually based on like a play.
Yeah.
Imagine going to see
Did they have
that like
the chicken
trailer
leg in the
kitchen scene.
play?
Yeah.
Was that scene involved in the play?
It's actually worse in the play. It's not a chicken wing in the play.
Oh boy. What is it in the play?
What you would really have down there.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wait, why? Okay, I think the chicken wing makes it worse than that though, to be honest.
Probably. Probably.
It's just so
Yeah.
weird.
We may have
All
to
right,
cut some of
enough
this
of that.
out.
Enough of that.
Yeah.
In the mood. What are you in the mood for, Matt?
My pick for this segment this week is probably easy to say one of my favorite directors, a lot of people's favorite director, Paul Thomas Anderson, Phantom Thread, which was Daniel Day-Lewis's. You know, at one point he was retired from acting. This was the movie he was retiring on. I think now he might be coming back to do some movie that like his kid directed or something. Uh, you know, because that's how these things always go. No one's ever really retired. But this movie is incredible. I loved it when it came out, but I definitely didn't get it as much uh, as on subsequent viewings. Or I guess I just didn't enjoy it as much. Like, it has served me to watch this movie multiple times. And I will say this. I think the only reason that I have kept Netflix is because Phantom Thread was on there. You see me empty-handed. I do not own Phantom Thread. And I watch it. Yeah, you know what? Just ship me that copy because I'm a
Dude,
bigger fan
actually,
than you.
I flipped the. Do you do this when you get movies that have this thing? So
I
like
never have.
the original copy
Yeah,
has like that's like the normal
right.
box or whatever box
I've
art.
never done this, but the one you're
Isn't that
displaying-
cool?
Yeah, it's way cooler.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's way cooler. So I watched this as sort of I watched it on New Year's Eve. There's New Year's Eve is sort of a part of the movie. But I had just watched it like 3 months ago too. It was the only movie that I watched on Netflix, and I think it just left Netflix. And I think I'm like,
No, it's still on there because I
oh,
started watching it on there and then I was like, I'm just gonna go put the
well, it
Blu-ray
was
in.
leaving for like the start of the year though.
Oh, maybe it is leaving.
Yeah,
then,
yeah. It was leaving like soon.
It was still on there when I looked yesterday or this morning actually, but yeah.
I'm not kidding. Probably over the last year or so, it's like the only movie that I think about putting on when I go to sleep at night. Like, there's something about it that I find very soothing. I like clothes. I like the idea of tailors. Like that. I mean, that's just like a small element of the movie, but for some reason, I find that soothing. And this guy is just completely insane. I like that it's like this weird gothic romance. I love that they just like annoy each other, but he has like this disorder where he needs to be taken care of, but it's only when he can work himself to this. Let's just say more of it relates to me than it probably should.
Dude, I was gonna say, so I rewatched this movie this morning in preparation, and well, I started watching it last night, fell asleep, and then watched the rest of it this morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one thing that I definitely thought about was like, there's like some really good comedy in here if you're
Absolutely.
like
It's
if you're
hilarious.
like in a relationship with someone, like the
The
look the look that Reynolds gives, what's her name?
Alma is the
Elma.
character name. Yeah.
The look that he gives her right after they get married, and she's like eating the whatever it is she's eating. She's like slurping something, and then she
Constantly like
crunches on a
scraping
piece of
bowls.
bread. Yeah. And he just looks at her. He's just like so disgusted. And I was just like, dude, I've definitely got that look before.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 100%. And it's just, I mean, of course, everything about it is so like masterfully handled. The cinematography is amazing. Um, that
Dude,
dude from,
allow me to sell you on the Blu-ray real quick. I
yeah,
don't know.
please.
There's probably like a 4K of it too, which looks even better. But
Yeah.
I watched the special features this morning too because I'm a weirdo and I just
Uh-huh.
have unlimited time in the house. But there's a really cool special feature in it where it's all just PTA talking about his process of picking which film stock to use. Like
I'm
that's how
interested.
insane he
Yeah.
was with like detail being so detail oriented. Like he was talking about just like using different tungsten lights and like
Yeah.
it's crazy that there was a whole 20-minute thing
And I
on
mean, look, you see a lot of that stuff in the main character of this movie, right? Reynolds
yeah
Woodcock. It's like he's
uh
insane, like this
yeah
insane artist who,
hmm
carries a lot of these problems
yeah
with him, but it's like part of what makes the genius. I also love Johnny Greenwood, the dude from Radiohead, like does a bunch of PTA scores. He does other
hmm
scores too. He did Spencer, which actually have like the vinyl downstairs.
hmm
His scores are some of my favorites over the last 10 years or so. I think he did Inherent Vice. I think he did There Will Be Blood. He's done a bunch of PTA stuff, but his scores are really like up there for me.
hmm
Over the past 10 or 15 years, I'd put it against anybody that's doing scores right now. Trent
hmm
Reznor and Atticus Ross, like I'll take Johnny Greenwood.
yeah. Yeah, the score is great too. I think in the first time I reviewed this movie on Letterboxd, I wrote something about being like I could see myself like listening to the score of this movie on like a long car ride, like
Yeah,
alone or something, driving from Wisconsin to New York, like listening
I've
to the whole score or something.
I've been buying a lot more. I guess what I'm calling like atmosphere music of just like it's movie scores, it's jazz records, it's just stuff to like have on at the house,
Mhm.
like while
Yeah.
you're if you want to read or like whatever. Like um, I've been buying a lot more records like that, a lot more movie scores. It's a
hmm
whole fun other element to get into. There's some really cool movie scores out there that you probably just don't think about.
Yeah, for sure.
This is one of them.
I feel like that's getting bigger now. Is like with vinyl stuff blowing up, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, there's definitely way more people buying vinyl right now than like
Yeah.
when I first started. Like, it's just, which is good. I'm glad to see it. It's another thriving element of physical media.
Yeah. Do
Okay,
you
so
think
that was my pick for in the mood for.
well, I have one more point that
Oh,
I just want to talk about, just because I thought it was super interesting.
yeah.
So, I don't remember if it was just like when I was like Googling it or something, but I came across some story about how Daniel Day-Lewis spent like a year studying with with somebody learning how to do like the cutting and like all that like making of the dresses and stuff. Is he like the greatest actor of all time? Like when it comes to being like method and stuff like that. Like,
Certainly from a commitment to character thing. And I mean, look, that's wild. I mean, like I was saying, I actually do have a love for, clothes and I would be interested in being a tailor. I am not like DiCaprio in The Departed, when he's like, my hand does not shake.
yeah.
Like me with a needle would be like, "Ugh," like just
And
not able to do it.
there's another story too that sorry, we're going off on a tangent, but I just wanted to bring this up because I thought it was so cool. So
Yeah.
I remember hearing about this. I didn't actually do any research about this, but have you heard the story about when they were doing Last of the Mohicans about him like literally living in the woods?
No, I haven't heard that, but I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
Okay, I just thought that was cool. Just wanted
Yeah.
to bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do think that he was like one of these insane, yeah, to your point, method actors that just really went all in for these roles, and I mean, it showed. Like
Yeah,
he's known as the greatest actor of our time, and I mean,
yeah,
hopefully he didn't go too method for Bill the Butcher and he
yeah,
was like, murdering people, but
yeah. He's great.
Yeah.
He's great in this movie though, and he is a huge bitch in this movie too. But
Oh yeah.
I love it. It's
Yeah.
so funny. He's so petty, but it's so good.
I know. I love all the high ends. I love the wardrobes. I love like the car that he drives out to like the English
Oh
countryside or
yeah,
whatever. Like,
that
yeah.
that was something that I took a note on too. I was like the camera rig
Oh,
because I
that
do
part's
video
awesome.
production. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to know how they rigged the camera to the back of. I don't know if that's like a Porsche or whatever that was,
I don't
but
know.
those shots where he's driving super fast and like the camera's just like shaking on the back of the car. I just thought like as a camera person, like that was like such a cool shot. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it jumped out to me too as not a camera person.
Yeah.
So I leave that to you. And I mean, I certainly don't know anything about cars other than this one looks really cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think it was a Porsche. I don't know. I don't know about cars either. Um, but anyways, is that enough
Yeah,
on Phantom Thread?
I think so. I mean, like I said, it came out in 2017. It was definitely my number one movie of that year. And it's definitely one of my most watched over the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's good. I've only seen it twice now, I think, but I thought it was great rewatching it today and last night. Good pick. My pick is from 1985, and it is Invasion USA.
Hold on, come over. I can't.
This
I
is
can only-
another
Oh yeah,
kind of
Chuck
Christmas
Norris.
movie. Yeah, kind of Christmas movie, not really, sticking with
Wow.
that Christmas theme. But so this movie was written by Chuck Norris,
Wow.
directed by Joseph Zito, who notably did Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Um,
one.
yeah. And this is a canon film. Do you know anything about canon films?
Uh-uh.
Okay, so they're they're known for like they went out of business in 94, but I think they were like from like the 70s to the 90s, but they did a
Okay.
bunch of movies like Over the Top and
Okay.
Bloodsport
Yeah,
and
hell yeah.
Cobra.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
that's
I
kind of
know the
like what,
type.
yeah, that's like what you're getting into with this movie here. So basically, to just run through the plot real quick, Chuck Norris plays this guy Matt Hunter, who's basically like he's like an ex special forces type agent kind of guy. I don't know if it's like the CIA or what he works for, but basically he gets roped back into kind of going back to work again when this communist terrorist group invades America, basically, and yeah, it's exactly what you would think a movie titled Invasion USA is. It kind of feels like a real red-blooded American right-wing propaganda movie.
Who would have thought that like Chuck Norris would be the leading man in several movies?
Yes,
I
yes.
I mean, I know it was a certain type of movie. I mean, I know like, Cameron wasn't exactly calling him up to be the lead or anything, but it was a lot of movies. There was this obsession with like martial arts in the 90s, and
Uh-huh.
like he totally capitalized on that. Like,
Oh yeah. It wasn't
just
he in some Bruce Lee movies? I can't think of the name of
yeah,
the one
that's
he was
that
in,
that I
but
think that's kind of like how he got his start in
yeah.
movies was he was like
He's like the white American Bruce Lee.
yeah, he was in at least one of them.
Mhm.
That's a film area that I don't like know too much about, but I do know
Yeah.
that he was in a Bruce Lee movie.
Yeah.
And it certainly worked out for him for some time. Then he had a television show that ran in syndication on USA for a long time.
Yeah. What are you talking about? What is that show?
Walker Texas Ranger.
Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay, so if you allow me to just tell you some interesting bits that I wrote down in my
please,
notes,
please.
so if I'm trying to sell the movie, um, so Chuck Norris got the idea for this after reading an article in Digest about hundreds of terrorists being in the U.S.
Okay.
So that's a fun fact.
Yeah, imagine like Chuck Norris is leading a pitch meeting. I thought he was just starring in anything. Not like,
No, he
hey, I
wrote
got an
this
idea.
movie. He starred in it. He didn't direct it, but he wrote it and he
I
starred.
guess it was like Vin Diesel with the Fast and the Furious stuff. At a
Yeah.
certain point, they're just like, hey, we got to hear what this guy wants to do.
So yeah, after he read this article, I guess apparently he wanted to make a statement about the possibility of this actually happening in America. And yeah, just kind of when you're watching it, it definitely feels like you're just kind of watching this like right wing propaganda type movie.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's some super funny moments. The
What
bad
is this
guy.
rated?
Uh, It's at least R.
Oh, okay. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot of
it's
his
R.
movies.
It's rated R.
Okay,
It's
I
not
mean, a lot of his stuff
NC-17.
was for kids, right? I mean,
Yeah. No, dude, people get their dick shot off. That's what I was gonna say.
whoa,
Yeah, the bad the bad guy. There's a scene in this movie where
huge
the
if true.
yeah. Okay, so that's another fun fact too. So
Yeah.
like, I feel like there's a scene that Christopher Nolan stole from this for The Dark Knight.
I'm sure. I'm
there's
sure of it.
so there's a scene in this where the main bad guy, what's his name? I think Rostov. I think is his name. Yeah, Rostov's his name. So he's doing this like drug deal, and this lady is doing this line with like a metal tube like thing, and he smashes her face into the glass with the tube, and the tube goes up her nose,
Oh, wow.
and then he grabs this other guy, and he puts his gun down the guy's pants and shoots him in the dick,
Okay.
and then he throws the woman out the window. So that, I mean, that's what you're getting with this movie.
All right. All right. Yeah, this is almost like slasher-esque
Yeah.
with the kills.
And then one other really cool selling point of the movie. So there's another point where Rostov is having a dream. You don't know it's a dream, but he's having a dream. It's basically a nightmare for the bad guy where Chuck Norris comes in and just kicks his ass. And then he wakes up and he's sweating and he's like, "Oh my god, Chuck Norris is coming for me." That's this kind of movie.
All right. I mean, yeah, this sounds like it needs to be heavily recommended.
Yes. I think it's super fun. And,
Yeah.
and it takes place on Christmas too, so
Yeah, absolutely. So why wouldn't you be in the mood?
yeah, another one to add to your list for next year's Christmas viewings.
Absolutely. The list is
Yeah.
growing by the minute.
Yeah. All right, that's probably more time than we needed to give to Invasion USA.
Well, listen, I'm glad you're bringing the A stuff for the first episode.
Okay, enough Chuck Norris talk. Let's get into this week's spotlight, the Goonies. Matt, take it away.
So, my connection to the Goonies can be traced back to the earliest days of my film journey. It all began on a magical weekend that was a free Disney Channel weekend, which at one point was at a premium. And of course, this was the golden age of VHS recording. So, started off a new blank tape with a label, Xmas specials. It opened with the Goonies, but was followed by Rudolph, Frosty, the oft-overlooked Garfield Christmas, Charlie Brown Christmas, and most of the well-known movies from our youth. And this was a tape that became a yearly watch, and every Christmas season in my household would kick off with the Goonies. Nowadays, this is more like a every 5 or so years watch for me. Directed by Richard Donner, which his career could inspire its own side discussion, but the name most often associated is the legendary Steven Spielberg, whose influence and fingerprints are clearly represented. That association, not a knock on Donner, as much as a testament to Spielberg and his Midas-like ability to sprinkle dashes of movie magic on any story and turn it to gold. The film's release in 1985 is centered right in that prime Spielberg era, 10 years after Jaws and 8 years prior to Jurassic Park. It's hard to not make me think of 1982's Poltergeist, helmed by, at least from a billing perspective, Tobe Hooper. But that also feels as Spielberg as can be. Now, I've met multiple people in my life that expressed that if you don't see this movie as a kid, it's not very good, indicating nostalgia is the key appeal. That idea is not lost on me, or us. It sort of sparked a lot of the success in the movie industry over the past 20 years. However, in my journey, I don't think I've typically had too hard of a time disassociating my past and current experiences, and I still think this has a lot to give. Maybe some of the trademarks like the truffle shuffle and sloth yelling, "Hey you guys," to whimsical pirate music jump out to the more adult viewers and come off a little more cringe than it would to a kid. I'll grant you that. But the theme that resonates for me, that desperation clinging to the wonderment of youth while the dreaded adulthood and all that comes with it closes in. This is something that really resonates with me with each viewing. I mean, look, moving and leaving your friends at a young age can be a truly devastating thing. And to his credit, Mikey Walsh seems to be the only person that has the foresight to call that out in this movie. But there is like a lingering sadness and anxiety to all the other characters as they're making their journey through the booby-trap-littered caverns on their way to One-Eyed Willie's lost ship. It's just something we wouldn't think about as a kid. These houses being foreclosed upon, so that a country club can expand uh, its overall real estate and have more waterfront golf courses. I mean, it's like a dark thing to think about. Like these kids are all losing their homes so that the wealthy can move in. So yes, the pirates, a lovable monster man, and depending on what version you watch, an octopus defeated by a Walkman blasting 80s dance music. Uh, but I do feel strongly that my love for this movie transcends my childhood loyalties. That being said, let's get into some discussion points. So,
Great.
number one, I have, Keith, this and Kindergarten Cop, which was released in 1990, both take place in Astoria, Oregon. Two movies that I watched a ton as a kid, and they both take place in Astoria. Now, you and I journeyed to the Pacific Northwest together at one point in time. We weren't in Astoria, we were in uh, the Washington, like Seattle area, and spent some time on the coast out there, but not too far from there. I did spend time actually. This shirt, I don't know if you can see this. I bought this at a record store in
Oh, I
in
see. Yeah.
Astoria, and I looked today just when I put this shirt on to see if that record store was gone, just permanently closed. Unlike Videotech, it actually shows up as permanently closed. So I'm glad I picked up this piece of merch. But I kind of think that this movie like kicked off my little bit of obsession with the Pacific Northwest. I just I don't know if it's the Douglas firs, but I love being out there. You know, the overcast weather.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
I
I had an awesome time when we went out there. Um, I definitely agree with you, and also thank you for that soliloquy, manifesto, whatever you want to call it. That was beautiful.
yeah, I mean, it's a movie that I enjoy quite a bit for many reasons. But I like first and foremost that town, the seaside town with the ships in the port, and like somehow they're able to ride their bikes to Cannon Beach. You know, in this fictional Astoria, Cannon Beach is a bike ride away. But there's just so much cool to take in that region, and I just love like the overcast weather with the big green trees. There's just something about that setting that is so welcoming to me. And maybe it's just like associating it with my childhood, but I've gone on to like whenever there's a movie that takes place there, immediately I'm like, yep, for me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. One of the coolest parts about that trip that we all took together as buddies was, I know it wasn't like the coast exactly where they filmed that part, where
Yeah,
where Mikey holds up that like the key or
a
whatever,
little
and
medallion thing.
yeah, and you see the like huge rocks out in the water.
Right.
But we did see stuff like that
Oh yeah.
on that like walk we took. I thought that was awesome. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
wait, and yeah, what you're referring to, we were out in the San Juan Islands, and I mean, a very
yeah,
similar
hmm
region. But yeah, I've actually been to Cannon Beach too,
yeah,
which is where those rocks are. And I mean, it's just a really cool area to take in. But of course, you know, hard not to wrap my nostalgia into those trips because it's like,
yeah,
yes, this is where some of my love of movies started. I mean, it
yeah.
was my like living in my first house as a kid. It was two things. It was watching that taped version of the Goonies and renting uh, Ewok's Battle for Endor from Videotech. Like those two things were where it all started for me
Yeah.
with the
I, f-
Goonies.
I feel like for our generation, this VHS tape was just like a huge part of a lot of people our age's childhood for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so number two on for my talking points here, the Fratellis, kind of scary. I mean,
Yeah.
I, you know, one of the things that I think is like repeatedly comes up in this movie is the idea of like these children kind of brushing up against adulthood or maybe prematurely going into elements of it. Like one of the things that you'll notice is how much they swear, which is another thing I wanted to bring up. But I do think that it's like having them face like real criminals who have murdered people. I mean,
Dude, okay, so two parts that
yeah,
terrified me when I was a kid. One, well, actually, no, three real quick. So Mama Fratelli, I don't remember what's her name, the Mama Fratelli. I don't know, the
yeah,
lady. So when she's going to cut Chunk's tongue or whatever,
right.
she's threatening to cut his tongue out or something.
I know.
And then also the part where she's threatening to put his hand in the blender. Dude, like seeing that as a kid,
I know.
terrifying.
Well,
And the
and then
dead
Chunk,
body. The dead
yeah,
body in the
Chunk is
freezer
in
too.
the
Yeah.
ice cream
Yeah.
freezer, and he's like, "Oh, it's a stiff. It's a
Yeah.
guy with a bullet hole in his head."
Chunk got the worst of it for sure.
Oh, I know. He handles it like a pro, though. I mean,
Yeah.
he's definitely annoying, but that's the thing. And that's a part of what the Goonies is bringing, right? It's like this youthful imagination, this adventure, this belief, but like the moment is never too big for them somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Like they should be way more scared than they are, and
Yeah.
that's just like repeatedly reinforced. I mean, they should be like afraid of Sloth, but they like immediately recognize that he's good and like
Oh
embrace him.
yeah.
You know?
Well, I think Chunk's definitely scared of him when he gets locked in that room for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But then they have that little moment with the baby Ruth, and it's like,
Who hasn't bonded over a
yeah.
candy bar?
Oh, quick question: Do you?
Yeah.
Uh, so one of the points that I wrote up that I think would be fun to do. We don't have to do it right now,
Sure,
but
sure. Let's do it.
I think it would be fun to rank the Goonies.
Yeah.
Do you count Sloth as a Goonie? Is he a Goonie?
Oof, that's a tough question. I guess I always thought about it as the kids, but I guess he is at least. I mean, he's B Squad. I would say he's definitely
He's
B
B
Squad.
Squad Goonie. I mean, he
Yeah,
doesn't live in the Goondocks. Like, so that's another
yeah.
thing about this movie is I never, until recently, I don't know why, but I guess I didn't understand why the movie was called The Goonies.
I understand that. That's a big key component that I agree with you.
They
Years
kind
of
of
my
glaze
life.
over that quick. It's like the Goondocks or something. Is
It's like
like
the
the
opening line
docks
of the
where,
movie, and
yeah,
let me tell you something that's changed in my movie viewing over the years. I now watch like everything with subtitles,
yeah. So you
and
pick up on that more now, yeah,
it helps me understand things so much more because you end up missing stuff
yeah,
when you're not like having it presented to you on screen. Because yeah, basically like you have 2 seconds to figure out why they're called the Goonies. It's like
yeah,
the opening line from Mikey. He's
yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, the
Very
Goondocks are
confusing as a
going
kid.
away." Like
I did always just think it was a cool name for like their gang of friends, like the
it is
Goonies. It just sounds
interesting.
cool.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a greasers thing from the outsiders where you just kind of like embrace it because obviously everybody's acting like they're on welfare. I mean, I'm like, well, not for nothing. They all have like waterfront property.
Yeah.
I,
I mean, what do you think? What do you think that house goes for now?
yeah, right. I know. It's like I don't know if those jewels that were in the marble bag would pay for it.
Oh yeah. Also, to bring it back to Venture Bros, they stole the intro from the Goonies.
Oh, really?
The
Or
little
is it
skull
a
thing.
reference?
I think yeah, it's a reference.
Okay.
Bar
Stole is pretty damning.
heavily borrowed.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, look, I totally wanted to be Data as a kid, and this was it was just part of movies. Now, granted, this came out before we were born, I think 85, but it was part of movies through like the 80s and through the 90s where like I don't know, inventions and mechanical engineering of things seemed to be like a big part of,
Yeah,
Pee Wee Herman's house,
the
Honey I Shrunk the
Gremlins, the
Kids.
dad in
Yes,
the
like
Gremlins is an
everyone,
inventor.
yeah, everyone was just like, like, somehow Data has engineered a a teeth prop to be able to,
He's baby Inspector Gadget.
yeah, basically, right. I mean, I will say the physics of the whole like pinchers of peril thing, not
Oh yeah,
100%.
when he saves himself from falling on those spikes,
I mean, I
that's
do
not
think
working. That's like a slinky in there, dude.
there was like a pretty good chance that like he was just gonna be completely impaled and nobody was having a
Yeah,
great time after that.
and that's like a 50-foot drop too. There's no way.
Well, they never like show it, but when that scene ends, he's like, "Hey, I'm in another room," and it kind of like cuts to implying that they all get down to where he's
Yeah,
at.
they all just slid down his slinky.
And that was great. I mean, I will say that's like one of the beautiful things about movies. It's like, well, how do we explain this? It's like, well, let's just
Yeah.
cut to they're already there.
Truthfully, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So my favorite, I mean, it would be a toss up for me between. This is tough now because Mouth is hilarious.
Hmm.
Mikey, I kind of find him relatable. I don't know. Maybe every kid thinks they're Mikey when they're a kid, but
I mean, he's the de facto like main character, kind of.
exactly. So it's hard not to like.
They
Be a
all
part of
have.
that.
I feel like they all get like a good amount of screen time and dialogue and stuff, but I feel like Mikey really is like the heart of the movie.
For sure. I mean, he's really the only one that's like holding on to this. It seems like the rest of them are just kind of reluctantly going along with it.
Yeah. That was one thing that I noticed rewatching it this time. There was that cool shot when they all go back inside the house after the I don't they're like the developers or whatever go there and they drop off the note to Mikey and Brand's parents.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the Goonies all go in the house and Mikey's just standing there. I just thought that was a really cool like dolly shot or whatever you call it, like a crane shot where it kind of like pans up to him. That was just a really cool moment that I noticed this time watching it that I don't think I noticed before, I guess, but yeah. Where he's just like contemplating like what's going to happen, how his future is going to be, and that was a cool moment.
For sure. And I mean, it is a very like self-reflective movie. It is this thing where it's like we're seeing the last gasp before like kind of these kids are going into the harsh realities of adulthood. And it's like, okay, well, we've saved the house at the end of the movie and, you know, hopefully that preserves some things. But I mean, as far as I can tell, the rest of these people are already moving. Like,
yeah,
I think the Walshes can save their house, but it seemed like the rest of the people were already pretty far along in their plans. But that, you know, that's left to mystery. So we don't know for sure.
I think Brand says something like that. He's like, "You think Dad's going to get his next 400 paychecks in 24 hours or something?"
Well,
like that.
listen, the jewels in the marble bag. I can believe that they'll save the Walsh's house, but I still think that everybody else, you know, everybody else from the Goondocks, which when you really look at it is only Data, Mouth, and Chunk, I believe. I don't think the girls are supposed to be from the Goondocks.
You know what? Something I thought of when I was watching it this time too was the bag of marbles.
Yeah.
Like I know, what's that movie? Hook didn't come out until like I don't know, 10 years later.
No, I think it was.
But
like
do you think the
91 or
marbles
something.
thing was like a reference to this at all? I don't know. I thought that was cool.
Well, look, I mean that's Spielberg too, and it also feels very similar to this. And I know I talked about the Richard Donner stuff. Like it does. It is this thing where, okay, Richard Donner directed the movie, and yes, Tobe Hooper directed Poltergeist, but there's just like a bunch of movies during a certain era that just feel like Spielberg, whether or not he was actually in the quote director's seat or not. This is definitely one of them. Poltergeist is one of them. I mean, do they not feel like Hook? They feel like Steven Spielberg directed them. So I mean, look, Brand was definitely always like the cool older brother. It brought me great joy to see like Josh Brolin become an adult years later and become like this great actor now for like the last 15 years since like No Country for Old Men
and Sicario. I know he's not like the lead actor in that movie, but I thought he was amazing in Sicario.
Oh yeah, well I'm just saying since like he came back on the scene as like an adult actor, because there were years where like I didn't see him in anything, and then all of a sudden he pops up, is in like a big movie, and it's ever since he's been consistent. But yeah. I mean I think he's a really good actor of this current time, but as a kid, I was like, oh, he's the cool older brother. And, he's really good in this movie. Just everybody's good. The kids are good. You want to be around the kids.
One person I'll say, allow me to be devil's advocate. Andy is not a good character.
Okay. She serves a purpose, though.
Yeah. I feel like it was a different time in movies. Younger audiences will not connect with Andy.
I agree with that. Agree. Yeah. I mean, but I mean, Martha Plimpton brings some attitude to her character. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Andy is, there's not a lot there, but
the only reason I bring that up too is I was watching it with Chris, my wife, and I can't remember what line it was. She said something stupid, and Chris literally just goes, "Shut up, bitch."
Yeah, she is very lame. She's definitely like just a lame cheerleader with not a lot of.
The other girl, though, I think Steph is her character's name. Yeah. She's like a well-written character, I think.
For sure. And gets like
Andy is like the typical 80s just kind of damsel in distress type character.
Well, look, I mean,
I don't want to poo-poo on the movie because I love it. I still think it's 5 stars, but I did want to just bring that up.
No, I totally. And look, I mean, every movie is definitely going to have its points of criticism, and that is certainly one for the Goonies. I mean, I just look at it as like they're all kids and they're all kind of lame too.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true. You're right. They're all kind of dumb. But think about it.
That's okay. But yeah, I mean, totally. Yes, Andy. I mean, look, Troy calls it out. I mean, he yells down that well, "You Goonie."
Yeah.
So. You know,
there was one funny thing. So I watched some of the special features on the 4K of this too.
yeah.
And one of the quotes, I wish I could remember it word for word, but it was really funny. Richard Donner was talking about how what it was like working with so many like young actors, and basically he said something along the lines of like, yeah, I didn't realize I was going to want to kill myself every day, basically.
I mean, I'm sure it's terrible.
He
Yeah.
seems like a hilarious guy, by the
Yeah.
way.
Well,
Like, have you ever watched any interviews or anything with him? He seems awesome. I
I've
don't know.
actually seen him do like I've seen some of his interviews about like the Lethal Weapon movies.
Yeah. I
Um,
recently watched the first two of those too, and those are great. I love
yeah,
those.
it's been a while for me. Those are movies that I liked a lot when I was like actually a teenager, you know.
Yeah. I do
Um,
remember you were a big Lethal Weapon fan
yeah,
in
I
high
did
school, I
like those
think. Yeah.
movies. Yeah. Now it's been a long time. I probably bought DVDs of it when I was with you,
I
actually.
I remember watching them at your house specifically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I did like them a lot as a teenager. Actually, those are kind of like when people talk about, oh, I can't watch the Goonies as an adult. I kind of feel like I watch the Lethal Weapon movies, and I'm like, I don't really know why I like these so much when I was young. Like, I kind of feel that way a little bit about those movies.
Dude, again, the first Lethal Weapon, another Christmas movie.
Absolutely, I
Add
know
it to
that.
your
Well, that's the
list.
thing. I know. Yeah, I mean, it starts off with, I don't know, Christmas music playing, right?
Yeah. I don't remember what song it is specifically, but yeah, it starts with a Christmas song.
Um, but yeah, also prominently on display as we hit on in this movie, the kids swearing. It's just always funny to me. I mean, when Super 8 came out and obviously is like doing a lot of homage stuff to the Goonies and other stuff that Spielberg had his fingerprints on, but like it's always funny to me. It always works. Like I
Yeah.
love it's just like the idea of kids like trying to talk like adults and it's always like a little out of place. Um,
I wrote down when I was taking notes my favorite mouth moments.
yeah.
Number one, obviously, being when Data flies through on the zip line, knocks over the statue, and Mikey goes, "Oh no, that's my mom's most favorite piece." And Mal's like, "Yeah, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't."
Yeah, I know. Well, it is a little uncomfortable as like the son if your mom has that statue.
Yeah,
It's like, what is up?
yeah,
But yeah, well, I also like when uh the mom actually does show up and like Mouth is so excited to like help
translating,
translate for
translating. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that
definitely
part's
making
hilarious.
the moves on Mrs. Walsh.
Yeah, yeah. Mouth is great. Yeah,
No, I mean, look, there was a time period where Corey Feldman was like great for all these roles that he did.
yeah.
I think Mouth is probably my favorite.
Yeah, so we didn't actually do our rankings, but I had Mouth. I had Mouth at number one, Data number
Yeah,
two, Chunk number three because he's second funniest,
yeah,
then Sloth because he's the strongest, then Bran because he's second strongest,
yeah,
then Mikey because he's the heart of the movie, then Steph because she's an actual female believable character, and then
yeah, yeah,
Andy at the bottom of the list.
yeah. That's fair. I mean, Steph is probably more entertaining than Mikey, because Mikey's not very entertaining, but he's just
I toyed with putting her above him to be honest.
yeah. No, Steph is pretty good. In fact, like when Steph and Mouth are like, there's a little bit of sparks flying there. You're like, this could be the
Yeah.
new power couple of Astoria. Like, no one can like intellectually hang with those two. Because I mean, Mouth is like coming off like he's an idiot, but I mean, his jokes are like pretty good.
Dude, yeah, okay, so another one that I put down there, yeah, was him sticking his tongue through through that painting, and he's like, "Oh, come on, give me a big wet kiss." And Mikey pulls the painting away, and he's like, "You're ruining the painting," and Mouth just goes, "You're ruining my joke." I love that part.
Yeah, commitment to the bit.
Yeah,
You gotta love it.
yeah,
Yeah. Listen, I think those are good rankings. I mean, I think you could have said any ranking,
yeah.
and I
I
would
mean,
have
they're
been
all
like, yep,
great.
that's right.
They're all great.
But yeah, Mouth is certainly the most enjoyable character. But I mean, look, in terms of hilarity, Chunk probably has the best moments. Like
Yeah.
when he's telling the Fratellis all his stories
Oh, yeah.
and about how he pushed his
That's
sister
one of
down the
Chris's
stairs.
favorite parts. That's one of Chris's favorite parts.
That's great. The part where he's like, I'm depressed, and he just is like spraying like whipped cream
Again,
or whatever in his mouth.
she literally says that when we have like a bottle of the Cool Whip, she'll like spray it in her mouth, like, "Oh, I'm so depressed." Yeah,
Yeah, I mean that part's incredible. Cyndi Lauper featured briefly in the movie on a television screen. Great. I'm an all-time Cyndi Lauper fan for sure. But the Goonies are good enough. Underrated all-time theme to a movie, or at least like an original song written for a movie. I'm sorry, the Goonies are good enough is right up there with anything.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. And that last shot of the movie where they're all just kind of sitting there and they're all just like, yeah, at the end of the movie.
Celebrating on the beach.
I love I love that scene. I took a picture of it when I rewatched it the other night and like posted it on Instagram. And
Yeah.
it was funny. Our friend Shane, he messaged me and was like, what did he say? I don't know. Hold on, I'm gonna have to cut this. We might not keep this in. But he said something funny to me. He said something about like when he was a kid, he wanted to he thought that he was going to get to keep a large mentally challenged person as a pet. We might have to cut that, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. I love
do.
that.
Well, I think it bears talking about, but we might have to talk about it in a different way.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to it. So, question for you: when do you think "Goonies Never Say Die" became the official slogan of the Goondock Kids? Like, who decided that? Is this something that's been passed
I
down
don't know.
generation to generation?
To be honest, I was kind of confused by that whole quote. I was like, where did this come from? I don't know.
I know. Like Andy's like, well, I'm not a Goonie, so I'm not like that. I would never say. I don't ever. I do say die. You know, but which would be like me. But you know, you don't really hear the rest of them the kind of backing him up. Like, oh yeah, like that's our thing. We never say die. It's like I think Mikey just made it up.
Yeah, on the spot.
Yeah, which is pretty good branding. You know.
Yeah. I like it as a quote. I think I have a shirt that says Goonies never say die.
I like it too. I just you do wonder, you know, who gets
sounds
credited in the greater Goondocks area for coining that phrase.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Sloth.
I do love the end of this movie though. I just every part of it because I think a big part of the movie is it's the kids bumping up against adulthood, of course, but it's also like there's a lot with the family stuff. Notice like the Walshes, they all do the thing where they can't say the right word and somebody's correcting them, and then they're like, "No, that's what I said."
Yeah.
It's like, 'cause, like the mom does it too. It's like the whole family does it. Obviously, when Data meets back up with his parents, his dad is like also this wacky engineer that like also his inventions go wrong. It's just like when you see all of the parents, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. Like that's who these kids belong to. So it's just like this nice moment on the beach where everybody's like reunited with their families. But I like absolutely love the cop like breaking it, like cutting through everyone with the Holy Mary, Mother of God. Like I love that part, and then to cut to the pirate ship, like coming out into the ocean.
Yeah.
I think is like this unexpected ending after it feels like the movie already ended.
Yeah. It makes it feel like more fantastical.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And even like more epic than it seemed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing, a quote from Spielberg in the special features, I think he was kind of talking about the ideas of writing the movie and just saying it really is just kind of like a one-day adventure that these kids had that just ends up being like something that could actually happen just with a pirate ship, you know, basically. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I mean, there's a lot of parts of it that I'm not sure I would say it could happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, it does seem unlikely that if all things were the same, that these kids would survive this.
True, yeah. I'm pretty sure the Fratellis would have just put them in the freezer, like...
Yeah, I mean, they're killing federal agents.
Yeah.
And just leaving them with the ice cream.
Yeah, yeah. The scene where Data says, what's in the bag, too, that's great. He's wondering what's in the bag,
yeah. But yeah, the wildest part on the beach is Chunk telling his parents that Sloth is coming to live with them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
I mean, remember when I pushed my sister down the stairs and blamed it on the dog? This is worse. She's
This
gonna
very
like.
large man
I mean,
is coming home with us.
and I mean, part of it is like, as a kid watching the movie, you're like, oh, this is great. Like this is actually a really sweet guy. But listen, I don't think he should be going to live with Chunk's family. I just don't think that that's the right
Well,
place for him
I
to
mean, to
be.
be fair, where else is he gonna go?
That's a good point. You know what? You've convinced me.
Yeah, I mean, I think he did enough. He did his job. He helped save the Goonies. I
That's
think
right.
he deserves to go live with Chunk.
Well, look, obviously the cops were like good enough for us. I mean, they were going to arrest Sloth with the rest of the Fratellis, and
Yeah,
um, the kids were like, "No, not him. He's good." And they're like, "Oh, okay."
yeah, they
That's
just believe him straight away.
so. But to be fair, like the kids are smart and the parents are dumb. Like,
Yeah.
you
But
know.
where are you on the octopus thing? I had never seen the octopus cut. Um,
Yeah.
but it is funny that Data mentions it in like all other cuts of the movie, I guess. Like the,
Yes. Do
he
you
references it. He says, "Oh, the octopus was like scary or something."
Yeah,
But
yeah, on the beach when they're talking
yeah,
about all the stuff, right? So it's actually disturbing to me that I don't know which version I was watching as a kid. I've convinced myself that it's both. That I have definitely seen the octopus scene. And when I rewatch it, it feels like it was part of the version. Yet when I watch the version without the octopus scene in it, I don't notice it missing at all. I'm not like, oh, there's a scene cut.
yeah,
And it's kind of one of those things that, like, you know how the older you get, you start to be like, did that happen or was I dreaming that?
yeah,
Like, that's sort of how I feel about whether or not I was watching the version with
yeah,
this originally or not. Like, because I did watch the movie cut on the Disney Channel, but the Disney Channel was on TV. They might have played the TV cut. Now, it wasn't with commercials. It seems more likely than not that I wasn't watching the one with the octopus, but I gotta tell you, every time I've seen that octopus scene, it feels like as familiar to me as anything
yeah.
else. So I can't even talk about it. I'm gonna end up in a padded cell over this topic.
Yeah, it feels like it didn't necessarily need to be cut. I don't know. I did a little reading on it, and apparently the reason that they cut it, or one of the reasons they cut it, was they wanted it to like be dancing or something at one point, but they were
Oh,
having trouble with like the
that would have been
mechanics of
better.
it. But like so I watched like just like it's in the deleted scenes on that
Yeah,
4K.
you can watch it on
Um,
YouTube, I think.
yeah, I'm sure it's on there too. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't think it was that out of place. I don't know. It's just like a fun thing about this movie that people talk about. So
Yeah, I think it's fine with it there and fine with it out. It doesn't impact me either way whether the scene's there or
yeah.
not. So take that for what it's worth. So anything else, Keith, that we didn't hit on that you feel like needs to be mentioned about the Goonies?
No, I think we covered the Goonies pretty well.
Okay, very well.
Let's move on to the segment that we're dubbing bullying. And my pick for this week was Life, and this is a 2017 horror movie that I think is kind of like I don't know if you could call it like a hidden gem, but I think it's kind of forgotten. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Rebecca Ferguson, and Ryan Reynolds, and it's kind of like a rip on Alien. But yeah, I love this movie, and I think it's great. And if you don't like it, then
This is
I don't
another
agree with you.
movie that I've never seen. Somehow all the
You've never
movies.
seen it?
No, somehow all the movies that you picked for our first episode I haven't seen, and I guess I should have tried harder, but
That's okay.
that's okay. I'll be
Yeah,
better in the future. I'll
yeah,
have seen some movies that you've
yeah.
picked.
That's okay. I do think this is worth watching, though. This is a good
Oh,
movie.
okay. So I totally will. This really wasn't even on my radar, but yeah, to your point, like good cast. Um,
Oh,
and-
take screenshots of the whatever reviews you look up too, so that I can
okay.
put them, so that I can show them.
Okay. Well, the first one I have here it just says this was so ass.
You're
So
so ass.
any dynamite comeback. Um, here's one for you. Grossly nihilistic without even attempting to craft even the bare essentials of an engaging plot, characters, or tension. Life is the absolute worst example of soulless blockbuster filmmaking. This goes on and on, but that's the first paragraph.
I'll say this movie has more tension better at building tension than most horror movies that I've seen in the last 20 years. So, sir or ma'am, you're wrong.
Okay, here's one for you. I cannot emphasize how much I hate capital HATE. Well, it's the capital and italicized. How much I hate movies that base their entire suspenseful plot on a bunch of people being absolute idiots. The whole thing was predictable too.
Okay. Did you predict the moment when the little starfish alien crawled into Ryan Reynolds' mouth and ate him from the inside? Killed him from the inside?
Well,
Did you
spoilers.
predict that? I didn't predict that. That was the most horrifying, disgusting thing I've seen in a sci-fi horror movie in forever. You're wrong. Pull up their top four. Let me shit on them.
I scrolled way past already,
Okay, okay.
but I'll give you an opportunity to do that with somebody else.
All right, one more.
Um, okay, last one. This is without hyperbole the worst movie I've seen in the last 5 years.
Have you watched any movies in the last 5 years other than this?
Mm. Do you want to know this person's top four?
Yeah.
Wolf of Wall Street, I, Tanya, The Prince of Egypt, and Spencer.
I don't have anything to say. You're
Yeah,
just wrong.
okay, yeah. I will say I don't think I've ever seen The Prince of Egypt, but I also don't watch like a
I
ton of
haven't seen that, or what was the last one?
Spencer, which is a movie that I love.
What is Spencer? I gotta look it
It's
up.
like the one where Kristen Stewart plays Princess Diana.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense.
At some point, I'll assign that to you.
Yeah.
You'll probably be
Well,
like, "This is bullshit."
I disrespectfully disagree with your opinion.
Okay, I did not get screenshots of everybody's
Oh,
stuff.
that's fine. We don't have to do that.
Okay, but that was fun. I
Yeah.
enjoyed your reacting to people.
Okay. I like talking crap sometimes.
Okay,
Well,
do you want to get? I'll intro mine. While you get ready. You know what movie I'm doing?
I forgot. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The new. Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing Wicked, which I saw in the theater not too long ago. I don't know. I guess it's been a few weeks at this point, but I have seen the musical, and I'm not like a diehard fan. I would say I'm a casual fan. I enjoyed my experience going to the musical, but I will say this. It's one song above everything else, and it's the song that ends at the friggin' intermission, and it's like, this is it. This is the big moment. So then the second half is like, nothing is going to be as good as that. Like, Defying Gravity is the big hit number, and it's like, nothing is going to be as good as that. So it's like, I don't know why, but when they decided to make the movie, they're like, we're going to split it in two, and we're going to end it where intermission ends of the musical. So it's like, I enjoyed this. I thought it was pretty good. I gave it, which we did a bad job of doing this episode, but we should be giving our ratings for every movie. So
Yeah.
I'm a 3.5 on Wicked, which is a B plus or whatever, and I thought it was pretty good. I thought Ariana Grande was pretty funny in it. And then it ends with the big musical number. That's like the best part of the whole thing. So I enjoyed it. I am a little bit like, what is going to happen in the second one that we're going to care about? We've already done Defying Gravity. It's the best part. But it's for this one. I enjoyed my experience. So go ahead, people.
All right. So I haven't seen this movie, but the first review that I clicked on that gave it a half star was in Spanish, so I can't read that one.
Okay.
The next one I clicked on says this shit hard, fire emoji, fire emoji, fire emoji, hard to watch, fire emoji, fire emoji.
Uh, I didn't find it hard to watch. I mean, well, I listen. I think Ariana Grande is like pretty funny. I guess I'm biased. I mean, I have owned two Ariana Grande T-shirts for like over 10 years, so um, maybe I'm a longtime fan. But I thought she was pretty funny, pretty entertaining in it. And Cynthia Erivo is like, she's a good actress and she was a really good singer in it. Like I didn't think it was. I can't meet you that this is that bad. Go ahead.
The next one is a half star review, and it just says I fell asleep. And this one was starred for spoilers.
You know what? I was having a little bit of a panic incident leading up to this movie, and I like breathed my way through a panic attack like 30 minutes into this movie. Not related to the movie at all. But then I was very tired after that. So listen, I don't condone falling asleep at the movie theater, but It has happened from time to time in my life. There's
Um,
better movies to sleep during, though.
Dude, so that reminds me, the only time I ever fell asleep in the movie theater was in the middle of the Two Towers, The Lord of the Rings.
That's long.
When my dad took me and my brother to see that movie like at a midnight showing or something on the night of or something, and I fell asleep. Anyways,
Dude,
yeah, only time I've ever fallen asleep in the theater.
I've like dozed a few times, but the one that I think I slept, and I can't remember what was the name of the movie that's like The Room, but with James Franco and all them,
um,
where they made their version of the making of it or whatever.
I haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I saw that and I was just, I don't know, so exhausted from work.
Disaster Artist.
Yeah, Disaster Artist.
That's
I
what it is.
mean, I think I slept through like the last like 45 minutes of it. Like
Yeah.
I missed like a significant chunk in the theater, and I mean that not condoning or condemning the movie or whatever. Like nothing to do with the movie. I was just like so exhausted, and
Mhm.
uh
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever watched it the whole way through. That was the only attempt, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
All right, moving on. This one's just kind of rude. Would rather take my eyes out with spoons and put them in the washing machine than rewatch this. And it
Yeah,
has
well,
one like. Somebody liked that.
if you felt like it was worth giving up your eyes for that, then more power to you. I mean, go
Uh,
ahead.
Somebody else just said no with a half
Yeah.
star. That's not fun. This person actually had some constructive criticism. Bad story, bad writing, annoying, bad characters, and bad acting. Cringe. Designed to appeal to the lowest common
Yeah.
denominator. Even the
Okay.
sets and
Well,
costumes were depressing.
yeah. I will say this. Like, look, I mean, I gave it a 3.5. It's not a movie that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a undeniable masterpiece. Certainly not. And there's definitely flaws and definitely things to be critical of. But when you talk about just like going out to the movie for a good time, and listen, I'm sorry, not that many movies end with defying gravity. I'm not seeing those movies all the time. So listen, you're not going to top me on that.
All right. Is that enough? You want another one?
Yeah, please. I don't think I have any comebacks left.
Yeah. Um. Okay. Well,
That was bullying.
that was bullying. We can just keep rolling into homework, right? So this is the
Yeah.
last segment of the show, and this is if you've forgotten after the 2 hours we just spent talking about a bunch of other movies, where we kind of just give each other a movie that we give each other a movie to watch because we kind of just want to hear what the other person thinks about it. I guess, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really looking to you to take me down a path on movies that just wouldn't. I guess I probably wouldn't force myself to watch it. I guess it's not a fair way to say it. I wouldn't seek out unless you were saying, "Hey, watch this."
Yeah. No, definitely agreed. So I guess I'll just say the one that I want you to watch is Deep Red, Dario Argento. It's just like a classic giallo.
Which was
Um,
discussed.
yeah, discussed briefly earlier in the show, I guess a little bit.
Yeah. Is there? Do you have a physical media copy of it?
I do.
What is it? Who is it? A Scream Factory or what?
It's you don't have to get.
Well,
I
I
mean,
might.
I got the chunky box, which is really cool.
Is that Arrow?
This is Arrow, yeah.
Okay,
But
I
they
will
also
look.
just have it in like the regular Blu-ray or whatever. But I think this is. I don't. Let me look this up real quick. I'm pretty sure it's streaming on Amazon.
Okay. Well, look, I can do my own research, but I guess if you're plugging away at the computer here, then you can let me know.
It's on the Criterion Channel.
Oh, I have that.
It's on Shudder,
I usually only keep Shutter around
and it's on Prime too. So
okay.
it's widely available to
Well
stream.
represented on the streaming platforms.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I will watch that for next time. And I am going to assign you a movie that I only found, I don't know, in the past 5 or 6 years, but it's a movie that I absolutely love. It's definitely a movie that I watch every year now. It's another seasonal like watch for me. Not holiday season, but winter, fall and winter. It kind of starts in fall, ends in winter. Um, but Robert Altman's McCabe and Mrs. Miller, which features Warren Beatty and Julie Christie, and I am really interested to chat with you after you've watched it because it may be a movie that I'm not sure that right away you'll be like, oh, this was amazing. But I think you'll like it. But for me, it was one that I definitely dug it, but I've been more into it uh, in subsequent viewings to the point that now I'm like, yeah, this is a 5-star movie that I love.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm checking out like a lot of older movies, especially like 70s movies
Yeah.
lately. And what else has Robert Altman done that I've seen? I'm just looking it up
I
real
like The
quick.
Long Goodbye. That's like my other favorite movie of his.
I've
Um,
heard The Player is really good, but
yeah,
I
The
actually haven't
Player is
seen that.
on Max right
I
now.
did. I think I did watch Shortcuts actually
Yeah,
a while
what
ago.
MASH and Nashville, which I have Nashville. I tried to watch it like one time and was not really getting into it, but I need to give it another shot because there's a lot of people that like it quite a bit. I think he's like one of those directors that's like kind of hit or miss, but people that are really into him are really into him.
Yeah, I feel like there was one other movie that he had on Criterion that I watched in the last couple years, but I can't
Yeah,
remember it. I don't
there's
know. It
probably
doesn't
another one
matter.
we're missing. Yeah, I mean I have shortcuts and
That might have been the one that I saw. Is that the one that has like the heart on the cover?
yeah,
Like the paper heart? Yeah, okay,
yeah.
I did watch that one. That was cool. I liked it.
Oh, Three Women is another really cool Criterion that he did the movie for.
Okay.
He did the movie for. That was a weird way of
Yeah.
phrasing that, but yeah,
Yeah.
Three Women is a really great Robert Altman movie.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, it looks like it is streaming, but I ordered it off of eBay. So I
So,
found it. I found the
all right,
Blu-ray for like
very
15 bucks.
good. Well, listen, I think you'll be happy with owning it. I like it quite a
Yeah.
bit. But I think we should probably wrap things up. This went way longer than I think either of us anticipated, but
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. And I've had fun just
Yeah.
shooting the
Well,
shit and talking movies with you.
I think part of the reason too that it went so long was just the beginning. We spent a long time like explaining what the show is gonna be.
Oh,
So I
that's true.
mean,
Yeah,
I think later episodes will at least be like
yeah.
15 minutes shorter,
This
15,
is
20
like
minutes shorter.
it's like a show that starts off with a made-for-TV movie where it's like the first one is like 2 hours, and then it's
Yeah,
your normal
yeah,
45 minutes with commercials after that.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We're acting like there's going to be another episode. Who knows? Um, hopefully this show doesn't go the way of the real Videotech and get replaced by a pizza place that makes literally the worst pizza
Yeah.
you've ever had. But I'm looking forward to continue down this road, and so far I'm doing really good in watching movies all the time in
Yeah,
2025. I know it's only been a few days, but I've been really loading up.
yeah,
So
yeah. I don't know. I had fun doing this. Like you said, it was long, but I don't know. This is the first episode, so we'll figure it out. I think if we keep going with it. So
absolutely. So
yeah,
I guess we haven't figured out a sign off yet, but we'll
yeah,
figure that out too.
yeah. All right. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, I guess we'll just say yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening. And maybe we'll be back with another episode soon.